Where are you, timer? I'm resident of Collinwood, Joel Saints, joined by my buddy Butch Rosenbalm. We're here to continue our Western series with Fistful of Dollars. The Dollar Trilogy, as they say, The Man with No Name. I have a question, not just about this trilogy, but another Eastwood trilogy. And I wanted to ask you this, because even though I know we're not doing those movies yet, do you think that Hang 'em High is the start of the Angel of Death trilogy for Eastwood?
Like Hang 'em High, Pale Rider, and High Plains Drifter?
Yeah.
Could be. I mean, it really could be. There was something. There was some. God, there was something I like to try and tie Hang 'em High with. It wasn't those movies, but now that you've said that, I'm like, yeah, okay, I can kind of see that. I know I know a lot of people. Well, no, maybe I don't know. I know some people. Let me clarify that. Want to try and tie all of them together. Start with Fistful of Dollars, or maybe even Rowdy Yates on Rawhide, and it's the same character all the way through. And I'm like, my problem with that is High Plains Drifter and oh god, my mind's going to blank. The other one, High Plains Drifter and
Pale Rider.
And what?
Pale Rider.
He's dead in both of those movies.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really sync up with Unforgiven, in my opinion.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, because he's not. Somebody tried to make that argument too once. I'm like, I said, so can I? And I asked him this question, and I said, let me ask you something. Okay, he's dead. His character is dead, both in Pale Rider and High Plains Drifter. Great movies, but they're dead. He's dead in both of them. He's an avenging angel in both those movies, if you will. In Unforgiven, he's not dead.
Dead people don't usually age. Yeah, he there was back in my role playing game days. For anybody that might be familiar with the character of the Spectre from DC Comics, or even Ghost Rider from Marvel Comics that inspired the Nicolas Cage film. In DC, they call the Spectre, a spirit of vengeance. Yeah. And that's basically what the Ghost Rider is. And in my mind, those two movies you just mentioned, that's what Clint is. He died, and he went to the afterlife, and basically God was going, "You want to go back and fix things?" And he's like, "Yes, sir, I do." And so yeah, that's my problem with trying to tie them. If you want to do it, go right ahead. It's kind of like how they used to try and make all the James Bond films up until Daniel Craig be the same character. It's like, okay, well, we'll let it slide. No, wait, we just started over, so no, you can't do that anymore.
Well, I see. I couldn't do that after I watched on Her Majesty's Secret Service, and literally, the guy says, "I wonder if it was like this for the other fellow." So you can't. So, but anyway, back to Fistful of Dollars. The original Mandalorian, if you will. Man, I love the scenery of this movie. Sergio Leone and more importantly, Morricone's music is amazing. Butch.
Yes. Again, what did you call it? Desert porn. There's some just beautiful shots in this. I think it's if it's not the opening one, it's right when Clint goes into town, and there's that hanging tree, which, according to some of the special features on the DVD I got, Sergio was driving around Italy, I think, or Spain, and saw this tree, and it's when you see it, it's the perfect hanging tree. And apparently he pulled over and got them in. They started digging it up. And the owner of the house comes out and goes, "What are you guys doing?" And apparently Sergio pulls out a card and goes, "I'm here with the Ministry of Safety, and this tree is a hazard because it was right in a driving path, and we're removing it for you." And apparently the owner said, "Oh, okay." And just went back in his house. I would have loved to have known if that man went to the theater and saw, or sometime in his life saw Fistful of Dollars and goes, "Hey, wait a minute, that's my tree."
Absolutely. That would have been classic if he would have too. Like, wait a minute, I know that tree.
It's kind of familiar.
Yeah, the desert porn is really nice in this movie. And it really fits in with the town too. I like how the town, there's a lot of desert. You don't have really covered roads. It's very, it's very, in a way, grungy in a way, because
Yeah.
you have the dirt, you have the desert, and then here's these. I hate the fact that this movie got remade, Last Man Standing with Bruce Willis, for anybody who wants to know. But this this here was really smart, and really I did some research on this too, how many people were offered the role. Henry Fonda, actually, um, Charles Bronson turned it down. He called it the worst script ever. I don't know what Chuck was thinking.
Well, that was before it got rewritten,
That
according
is,
to one of the special features.
yeah, that
And
is
that's
true.
some of my notes here: Henry Fonda, James Coburn, Charles Bronson, and Richard Harrison. And apparently, one of Clint's co-stars on Rawhide was offered the job.
Yeah.
He turned it down, but he said, "Hey, wait a minute. There's a guy I work with," and he introduced him to Clint Eastwood. And in fact, part of Joe's wardrobe is Rowdy Yates's wardrobe from Rawhide. So
Mhm. It's that I love how when he's coming into town and they shoot at his mule.
ugly mule, or is it just me? I mean, it looks like the poor thing was been hurt some way.
It's really I sort of think I wonder if they had just got him a lame mule, honestly.
Maybe.
I'm sort of wondering if the mule was just somewhat lame or had a bad shoeing, because sometimes with horses or even mules, they'll get they'll get bad shoes and they're just not walking properly, or they're just very uncomfortable with the way they're walking. So I'm sort of wondering if that's the case for our mule friend here.
Maybe.
It's, again, I don't know, but yeah, the mule's like the only time the mule really moves fast is when it's shot at. And I love that. It's just like it's going along, and Eastwood like grabs a post. He's like, "Hello" to the bartender. He's like, "Hello," and the bartender should have. He's like, "Listen, we have enough trouble. We don't need you."
Hey, now, I have a question for you,
Yeah.
and I go ahead and admit any possible bias in this question. But every quote spaghetti western end quote I've ever seen, I look at it and I'm like, yeah, that's not America. I enjoy this film. We both talked about how it's got some great scenery in it. The town fits the bill, but every time I look at it, it's like, yeah, this isn't America. I used to think it was Italy. Now I know it's Spain, but it, is it just me, or do they all not? I mean, they try, but there's just always something that makes me go, yeah, that's not America. It's kind of like a lot of the syndicated TV shows of the late 80s and early 90s, especially the horror shows, Werewolf, Friday the 13th, stuff like that. I think even the Nightmare on Elm Street series, they were all filmed in Canada.
Yeah.
I was Friday the 13th. The series was on recently on one of our channels, and I said, look at that. I said, you can always tell it's Canada because it looks like America, but there's always something wrong. And you can tell it. That's how I used to always tell it's Canada. And it's kind of like that with this. It's like this isn't something's just wrong. Is it just me, or do you see that also?
No, I mean, here's the thing too. Like when you watch okay, when you watch, let's say, The Searchers, and you know what was shot in the US, right? And then you watch this, you can tell right away, like, yeah, we're not in America anymore.
Okay.
Like, my when I was rewatching the first one, my wife's watching it with me. She goes, "Are you watching another Western again?" I said, "Yes, honey. Yes, I am." And because this was right before I got sick, and she's just like, "Okay." So, and I watched it. She goes, "Are they in America?" I said, "They're nowhere near America, honey." I'm like, "They're in Spain. I said they're not
I
in America
think
anymore."
Germany, I think.
Yeah. But it's really, again, it fits it though too. I think that's the
Okay,
thing.
it gives it a I don't want to say fantasy, but other kind of almost otherworldly. It's almost like somebody's telling us a story and we're imagining it in our mind. Maybe a little impressionistic, maybe a little neo gothic, I guess, maybe kind of way to put it, where you don't really need the rest of it. You're just imagining, you're just enjoying the story being told.
And here's this town in the middle of nowhere. I mean, that's another part of the story too. And it's a part of the story because here's Eastwood's character who's literally riding into town. He's broke, he has no money, and the bartender's telling about these two sides warring with each other and how they both have money. And he says, "Well, which one's the strongest?" And he says, "The Rose." It's like, he goes, "Huh, Baxter's over there, Rojo's over there, me right in the middle. Perfect."
Yeah.
It's like he's wanting the money. And in many ways, we've learned about westerns. We've talked about westerns on here that there's times there's no law, there's no one to help, and this is that perfect, really western. It fits that too. There's no law. There's no. I can't. I can't even say, you know, Baxter's a sheriff with a straight face because he's not. He's not.
Did you watch any of the special features on your disc?
No, I'm lazy.
It's fun, but I just want to. You talked about there's no law. They filmed apparently a prologue with a guy that is obviously not Clint Eastwood and Harry Dean Stanton. Those of you that might know him as Brain from Escape from New York, one of the greatest movies ever. And this guy dressed like Clint Eastwood, he's in jail, and they bring him. He's some kind of warden or military person. He's like, "Well, if you'll go to this town," and he mentions the town's name, "and you'll take care of the Baxters, we'll give you a pardon." And you see this big hat, and like you'll see the hat go like this, and he's got one of those cigarettes, but you never see his face. Well, then towards the end of this prequel, I guess, though they show close-ups of Clint from later in the movie. But if you look at the guy, I don't mean like the guy's fat, but Clint is
No.
very skinny, and this guy looks like me and you. He looks like a regular guy, and you're like, yeah, that's not Clint. It's kind of funny. I mean, after watching the film and then watching that, because I'd never seen it before, the prologue that is, and it's just like, my God, that is so obviously not Clint Eastwood. It's like they hired me and dressed me up like Clint Eastwood, and don't. And the cameras are all up above, so you see just the hat, or you see him from the back, and then you see Harry Dean Stanton, and like the hat's down, and he's smoking a cigarette, that little cigarette. So I don't really know why they did that. It's like, of all the movies with all the questions, this you filmed this, but to see, it's one of those things. See it once and go, "Oh, okay." Now I have to never watch this again.
I'll have to watch it, but Harry Dean Stanton does not look like Clint Eastwood. I will say that
Harry Dean is not. He doesn't play Clint. He plays the warden.
the warden. Okay, I apologize.
Now you're. I made that clear.
So they have a guy who is supposed to be that character, and you can sort of tell he's not, right? That's what you're saying.
That's, in my opinion, yes.
Okay. I'm gonna watch. By the way, I think you gave yourself the perfect Halloween costume idea to dress as Clint Eastwood's character.
I actually tried to do that one year. I bought a serape, which is a poncho.
Yeah.
Some black pants. I didn't have any boots, so I didn't get cowboy boots, so I didn't get any spurs. And I tried to find a hat because I felt like you can't get away with just like a basic shirt and black jeans, black pants.
Yeah.
And I could not find the hat. And but I tried to do that one year, and then I thought, at even in the place I work at now, I work somewhere else, and I was like, how many people are even going to know who this is?
Listen, the one year I dressed as Michael Myers. Every trick or treater, instead of just running out the car and running to my porch, they get out there. They don't get out the car for like a good 10 minutes. They're talking to their parents. They get out the car. They're slowly making their way toward me. I'm thinking, this is just wrong. I'm going to hell.
I've always wanted to do one of those where like you put the hay bales and it looks like a scarecrow, but you're in the scarecrow outfit, and you wait for the kid to trick or treat and getting candy, and then you're like, I'll have some.
What was classic is the one mother yelled at me to say something. I didn't say shit. I just tilted my head out. Say something. Like, you didn't realize the character doesn't talk. But I told my wife saw what happened. She goes, "Did that woman yell at you?" I'm like, "Yeah, she yelled at me." So, what do you do? It's Halloween. But what did you think of the Baxters faction in this movie?
They were pretty, honestly, they were pretty weak.
Yeah.
I every time I watch this film, I'm like, these two groups were rivals.
Yeah.
I mean, it seemed the Baxters were very very limited. They didn't have many people. Now, maybe this is a problem with just being a low budget film and not having a lot of money to buy extras, and it doesn't seem like much of a fight, but it's really awesome. One of the things I love about this film is how he continually plays them against each other and does it masterfully.
Yeah.
And it's not like, hey man, they've been talking about you. They say you're a bad person. Hey man, they've been talking about you. I mean, he's literally playing them against each other. The scene where he kidnaps the Rojos. Was it the Rojos capture the son of the Baxters, and then he captures the woman that the Rojos is in love with, and they trade off, and it's just like it's just really good. Reading if you've not seen this film and you read the description of it, it doesn't really do it justice. It truthfully, if I just came across this, I'd be like, I don't know if I want to watch this. And this movie is so much better than any description of it.
I like one of my favorite scenes in this is when they're talking about peace, and the bartender's like making fun of Eastwood's character, like, "Oh, are you on this one?" And he flicks this thing off the table, like, "Oh, there goes your chances of paying me back." I'm like, that was hilarious.
And this movie, more than at least the first few seasons of Rawhide, where Clint played a character named Rowdy Yates, this is the beginning of the calm, cool, collected, always in control Clint Eastwood characters. I mean, even later in the film when he gets caught and they're beating the crap out of him, he's kind of like, okay, let's got to take this for now. Bam, bam, I'll get it. Bam, okay. He never's like, oh God, what am I going to do? They really got me. No, he just calmly looks around and ends up getting his way out of it. It's just, honestly, Clint Eastwood plays this character in the vast majority of films he makes from 1960, whatever on. This is the same character he's playing. Calm, cool, collected. And, some people like to make fun of, Clint Eastwood plays the same character in every film. You know what? A lot of people want to see that, and they make a lot of money. So, he makes Unforgiven and makes, I don't know, $50 million so he can go make Bridges of Madison County because he wants to.
Yeah. It's really interesting too, because with this character that he's playing, you're right, he's cool, calm, and relaxed. I would say that for a few dollars more is the better story movie following this. No offense to this movie. It's a good movie. It's entertaining as hell. The Rojos are very vicious. They're a lot more vicious than what the Baxters are. And I love the fact that you get that sense right away. I mean, even the bartender's description is perfect. Like they're, and I love how the one Rojo is really good with a Winchester, and he shoots the knight's armor as he switches characters. It is.
I'm gonna tell you something about the first time I ever saw this film. I caught the tail end of it.
Yeah.
So after Clint has gone and got the armor and has it under his chest and he keeps getting shot. So the first time after that, I got to see the whole film, I knew how it ended. So it was just kind of like, because if you don't, it builds to it. It's very linear. He shows up, he learns things, and he uses them, and then we have to the end of the film. So watching the film later and see, like you said, talking about him shooting the armor, and a man must learn how to I don't even remember what he says now, but talking about that and learning his lessons, and it's a lot of films either very quickly explain things and you're just supposed to go with it. This, and in my opinion, good films, start and they build towards it, and maybe you see it coming, but it's still entertaining, and this does it well.
I like how when he's given the Rojos information about the cemetery, and they say, "Well, what does this get you?" And he said, $500. It's so good. And I mean, his character is such a smooth. You get the sense that the one Rojo who even picks up on him right away. He goes, "You can be sure of two things: he's fast with a gun and he's very smart." So you get a character who's your main villain, who's really smart too, which that's nice to see when you have a big, heavy villain at the center of this. Yes, the gangs are both not necessarily good. They're both bad, don't get me wrong. But when you have a main villain and it makes the film all the more fun and dangerous to watch, because you get the sense, hey, our hero is not as safe as he might appear to be.
Well, it's similar to, in my opinion, how Darth Vader changed in what is now called Episode 4, 5, and 6.
Right.
When Star Wars came out, the first one, this guy was the badass, but the thing is, at least in that film, that's his job. He's the badass.
Yeah.
Once you've established that, I mean, yeah, it was still fun to see him, but there wasn't much room for him as a character to grow.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, that's why I always thought it was genius to pull in the Emperor, so Darth Vader could grow. So, I used to always jokingly call the Emperor Grendel's mother. But like you're saying, an interesting bad guy, in my opinion, and I'm going to maybe speak for you, makes a better film.
Yeah.
I'm not an overly big fan of John Travolta, but when he was in that Punisher film from, I want to say around 2002, 2003, where he's playing a villain, I enjoyed the heck out of that.
Yeah.
It was an interesting villain, we all know he wasn't going to come to a happy end, but still, it's like Hannibal Lecter and, other intelligent, smart villains who are not just suddenly handed the idiot ball and that's how the hero wins.
That's like in the Avengers movie. I don't mean Marvel's Avengers. I mean the Avengers, the British show. When Sean Connery was cast as the villain, I'm thinking, holy shit. Because Sean Connery wasn't known for playing a villain. I knew him as James Bond. But you want a movie where it doesn't have to be necessarily a Connery or a big name, but you want a villain that is going to be menacing. Yes, I'm not talking about just the brutality, but their intelligence too, because if they're smart, they're dangerous.
Yeah.
And I mean, the Rojos, they got a group of people who are smart and man, I'm telling you, I really like how the Rojos keep the whole peace talk is a ruse, really. Because what they're saying, and this is why my wife asked, was this filmed in America? Because they're saying about the American, cavalry coming down to investigate. I'm thinking no. I'm like, no, this isn't filmed in America, honey. But that's just a line they use, which is cool because you're trying to get the believability across. So, and when you see him slaughter that whole army, and it's done, how they shoot this is beautifully too. And I love when they go back to the cemetery and at night it's shot just as well. It's dark, it looks dark, it's not scary, but it gives you a bit of a creepy feel. And you're not sure what's going to happen, who's going to get killed. But it's the same in literally very few scenes. It goes from peaceful to now we're not really at peace.
I was going to mention that part of what I think of the Baxter's problem is they're a family, and then it's like, oh well, the Rojos are family too. The difference is though, the Rojos are brothers.
Yeah.
Anybody's had a brother or a sibling knows it's kind of a case of, I can say that about my sibling, but you better not. Maybe, if you will, publicly you're always on their side. Privately, you're gonna be like, you're the dumbest piece of poop that I've ever seen. Whereas the Baxters, there's a mom, a dad, a son, and however many more family members. They're more of a if you will, a real family, like a nuclear family, parents and children. And I felt like the only different thing they really had was they had money.
Yeah.
And that's the only way they were really any sort of competition to the Rojos, because every time I watch this film, I'm just like, even if Clint didn't show up, the Rojos would take over. Probably not too far in the future either.
Yeah, and I think really the Baxters relied on outside gunmen more so than the Rojos did. The Rojos had the brothers who could all shoot, and they had an army who could shoot too. They didn't need an outside gunman. Where the Baxters, the three guys, the four guys that Eastwood's character killed, I always interpreted they were hired gunmen anyway. So, in my opinion, I'm not.
You could be right.
I
disagree.
Because when they're killed, I'm John Baxter. I'm the sheriff. I felt like I wanted to literally channel my inner Bruce Campbell. Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants. I got news for you. You ain't in charge of jack and shit. You ain't. It's like he really isn't. It's like this dude holding up that badge at that moment is like really, dude, really.
That's a mighty nice thing. That's a mighty nice thing. Here, let me shoot it. That, and you just mentioned what is literally my favorite scene in the whole film, where they're talking crap, and Clint looks at the coffin maker and goes, "You're going to need 3 coffins." He walks over, and they have everything, and he somehow shoots all 4 of them, turns around, walks back. My mistake. 4. And I don't know if I'm just creating this memory or if it's actually in the film. Some people may know this is a remake of a movie called Yojimbo.
Yeah.
With Toshiro Mifune, and let's see, directed by why is his name escaping me? I'm embarrassed at the moment. Let me look it up real quick. Sorry.
That's okay.
I want to give credit where credit is due. Akira Kurosawa. I swear, and it's been forever since I've seen Yojimbo. I swear there's a very similar film in that. I may be mixing it, and I apologize if somebody watches Yojimbo and is waiting for that scene and it never shows. But I love that scene. Don't need 3 coffins. On the way back. My mistake. 4. It kind of goes back to what I was saying about how cool Calm and Collective was. He had no doubts. He was going to go over there and kill all 4 of them.
Yeah, it's one of the most it's the most calmest gunman you'll ever see. I mean, you'll see gunmen that are just in westerns we've covered that are just flat out mean. And no, not this character. He's just calm, cool, collective, because he's got confidence in his ability to shoot, and he absolutely should be.
But we were talked about Warlock,
Yeah,
and Fonda. I can hear Henry in my head. Henry Fonda saying those same lines. My mistake. Or
yeah, that's the thing too, because the character Clay Blaisdell, the character he plays, isn't as I won't say it's the same exact character, but he's playing a gun hand. He's playing a hired gun hand. And now Fonda had admit later, after he had worked for Leone and Once Upon a Time in the West, that he made a mistake turning the roll down. But now he does another Western with him called My Name is Nobody. It's really interesting that Fonda turns this down. I mean, the script may have been bad. Bronson was probably right originally. And a lot of people just turning this down, and then they get Clint Eastwood, and what luck Eastwood, getting in front of the camera. And I did read that Eastwood and Leone were talking about the script, and changes were made after Eastwood was brought on board. Which is
one almost cut down his dialogue.
Yeah.
Clint said he talks too much. And when he doesn't say much, he's more mysterious and he's more interesting. And what's funny is Clint doesn't speak Italian and Sergio didn't speak English. So apparently, according to special features, they communicated through the stuntman, Clint's stuntman, who spoke both. But yeah, Clint is definitely right on that. I mean, this is the kind of guy you don't want to be talking a lot.
Yeah, and you don't either. I mean, the less he says, the better. And when he does say something, it's like he has a few more lines, and for a few dollars more, when we cover that one next week. But this, like, it's priceless, because when he does say something, it's either when he says get 3 coffins ready, and he says it such in a matter-of-fact tone, it's like, oh shit, he's gonna go kill some dudes. And he kills 4. Like you said, he's walking back, a mistake, 4. It's like, okay, I was wrong, but I'm not really saying I was wrong, but my mistake, my bad.
And it's not like, and I've caught myself like, when I mimic this, gonna need 3 coffins. It's not a badass boast.
No.
Not, I'm gonna sound tough. It's just you're gonna need 3 coffins.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how, or rather, in my opinion, that's why the scene works.
Yeah.
If he tried to sound badass, it wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have worked as well. I don't know if you've seen any of the Yellowstone television series, not either of the prequels, but the main series. Me and my wife watched the pilot, and Clint, or not Clint, I'm sorry, Kevin Costner's in it. And right away, he's talking like this. I look at my wife and I'm like, why the hell is he trying to sound like Batman? Because that's what he's trying to sound like, in my opinion. It's like, dude, you played Wyatt Earp and you played him well. You can do tough. You don't have to. And I can't buy this. I mean, even Open Range, another film we've covered, and I've stated my love for. It's not the badass voice. It's like there's a point where he looks at Annette Bening in Open Range. He goes, men are going to die here today, Sue, and I'm going to kill them. And it's not the badass boast. It's just straight fact. And it made me think of that, that kind of thing where it's not somebody who wants to sound tough or I'm going to go here, I'm going to do this, it's statements of fact.
Yeah.
And it works because he doesn't say a whole lot. When he does speak, you need to pay attention.
Yeah, I think with Westerns, when all the ones we've covered, now there's actors who can talk and get away with it, like a John Wayne. When John Wayne talks, it's like everything he says sounds tough. So but he doesn't have to do a deep voice or anything. But the same thing with Costner's the same way. Like when he says something, it's like you said in Open Range, when he tells her people are gonna die here today, I'm gonna be one that kills them. He says it in such a way like, yeah, you believe it. And that's the thing. You don't need to be, I'm Batman. For any, I know that was horrible, but you don't need to have right. You don't need to have the gruff voice to sound tough. I mean, that's not always a Western, and rarely ever really is it a Western at all. I'm not saying that it's never in a Western. Sure, I think there's a couple out there, but with a main character, less is more with vocalization. If they have to talk a lot, there needs to be a reason for why they have to talk a lot. Like, okay, is this like, for example, I'll use a movie for an example. Bend of the River. Jimmy Stewart's character is a cat. He's driving cattle across the land, so he has to talk. He has to communicate with other people. He's helping these people get their supplies across the land, so he has to communicate with other people. So that's one way. But when you don't have to have a character who talks a lot, like in this, you use it, and they use it well with Eastwood's squinty eyes and the way he moves the cigar in his mouth. Like later on, when he's talking to that one guy, and he puts that cigar in his mouth after he tells him, "Well, we're gonna be at peace with the Baxters," which we all know is bullshit. And he puts the cigar in his mouth, and I love how he hands the Don back his money. He goes, "Here, I don't take nothing. I didn't earn." It's not said in a smart ass way. It's said in a matter of fact way, but it makes you appreciate the character all the more for it.
Yeah, very much so. And less is more works with a certain type of actor or a certain type of acting. The way Clint plays this in pretty much every other Western role in Dirty Harry, it works. Now, if you had a Christian Bale or Jack Nicholson, I won't say that the less is more wouldn't work with them, but when you get somebody that can do the Dennis Hopper type, then you kind of want them because you're hiring them. You hire Clint Eastwood to be Clint Eastwood. You hire John Wayne to be John Wayne. You hire Jack Nicholson to be Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
And you hire Marlon Brando to be Marlon Brando.
Yeah.
It works with this film. It works with Clint. Would it work with every actor? No, of course not. Would it work with some that we probably wouldn't expect? Sure. William Holden jumps to mind. I think he could have. There's another one. I could see him make this role. It's like you were doing your voice, and I was like, I was going to ask you, could you imagine Charles Bronson trying to do the? I don't want to hear that. I mean, his voice is plenty low and well enough.
No, I can't. That's the thing too. I mean,
sorry.
Bronson's Western would come way later in early '69. Once Upon a Time in the West. But that's the Western to me that really launched his career. And for this, I can't see Bronson speaking this. I could have seen Fonda. I agree with you. I could have seen Holden. But just, I tell you, I'm trying to think of how young he was at the time, but a guy I could have seen, and he might have been old enough to do this role. I know he would be in movies later on, would have been Henry's son, Peter Fonda. I could have seen him do it. But the fact that they got Clint, and I'm glad they did, because he's fun to watch in these movies, all three of them. I know we're going to cover the other two, and I can't wait to cover for a few dollars.
I'm going to name somebody that I think would have done this role really well that you don't normally think of in Westerns. Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah.
I mean, when him playing Spock and all that, I could see Leonard Nimoy playing this role. I mean, he's done some tough guy stuff.
I'll go the other way. The actor who played Bones, I think, could have nailed this.
Forrest Kelly, yes.
Yeah. I mean, because it's funny. Patrick was talking about how he disappears in Warlock, and he does later on. He just leaves, but which is cool. But it's interesting how casting selection is everything. I mean, that's the thing. Yes, they wanted those other actors and they didn't get them, but maybe it was fate. And it turned out very well. With this movie, what did you think of the final showdown sequence?
Well, as I said, that was the first part of this film I ever saw. It's and it actually kind of ruined the film for a while. I had to wait a few years and then watch it, in order. Because in order, this is a great ending. The final showdown. The Rojo with his Winchester, and Clint's got that big plate of armor up under him, and it's a smart hero or anti-hero if you prefer, using his brain to use, and he keeps. You want to try harder than that? I can't think of the Rojo's name. You want to try harder than that, Rojo? You got to hit a man in the heart. I mean, he's almost making fun of him. He's definitely poking the bear, so to speak.
Yeah.
And the thing is it's really smart because, as John Wayne says in El Dorado, the angrier he gets, he's not as good. So Clint is definitely doing this, and it's a smart, interesting showdown that fits the film. It's It's good. It's really good. I really enjoy it.
I like how when he finally unloads all his ammo, and then the armor drops in his mouth. He's just so shocked. Like, it's so classically good, and I love the fact that he shoots the one brother, and he shoots the other guy. The other brother goes in to hide, and he goes up top, and he ends up getting shot by the bartender, which I love. The bartender was a really good character in this movie. I know he doesn't have many lines either, but he's really fun.
Yeah, he's really interesting, and he's a good supporting character.
Yeah.
Who gets pulled in a little bit more than he wants to be, but hey, I've got one for you. One of the leader of the Rojo brothers, he's in love with this woman, and I couldn't say her name to save my life if I wanted to. Clint ends up helping her get away. She's actually married and has a kid. Uh, well, yeah. Let's see what there's. What are their names? Their name. I kept thinking their names was kind of a version of Jesus Mary. The kid's name is Jesus.
Yeah.
The husband's name is a version of Joseph, and her name is something close to Mary. And I was just like, was that intentional? Is that just a little Catholic nod? But she asks him, or Clint, maybe it's the husband. One of them asks him, "Why are you doing this? Why are you helping us?" And he said, "Let's just say I knew somebody that was in a similar situation, and there was no one there to help." I always took that was his mother, something similar to that character's mother, and that's why he couldn't stand seeing poor little Jesus be separated like that. That was him, and that's part of the reason he became the person he was, is because his mother was taken from him. Agreed?
Yeah, I do. I agree with you 1,000% here. I mean, it says it doesn't give it all away, but it says just enough that the character has a past that is very, very conflicted, and it makes it all the better. I mean, it really does. It gives you that feeling like, holy shit, you know why this dude picked up a gun? I think that just makes him all the more dangerous, which is awesome. I mean,
yeah.
What do you give this movie? 1 out of 10?
I give it a 9.
Yeah.
I mean, I give very few 10s. Maybe an 8.5. Just because there are times you can see the low budgetedness of it. It doesn't really affect the film, but once you've seen it a few times, you're like, oh yeah, they cut that corner. This is a damn good film, and if you've ever enjoyed any other Clint Eastwood film, you've got to see this one, because this is the first Clint Eastwood Western film. Because, like, as we've mentioned, he was on Rawhide. Thank you. I got Rowdy Yates stuck in my head, and I was like, no, that's the character. So, yeah, really, if you want to see the genesis of Clint's westerns, you got to start here. You got to start where it begins. It may not be a perfect film, but it's damn good.
What would you say is his best western?
That here's the problem with that question. It's a very personal question. Which film resonates the most with the person you ask that to. A lot of people love Unforgiven. I do not like Unforgiven. Every time I watch that film, I feel robbed, because I know it's a deconstruction. I know it's this. I know it's that. I wanted one more Clint Eastwood rousing, riotous, revenge, guns flying, bullets going. I wanted to see a Clint film, and I got, two guys get shot and come out of there and burn your damn house down and shoot you down. It's like, what the hell is this? So play the game as you hit. What is his best Western? It's probably High Plains Drifter.
Yeah.
My favorite is Hang 'em High.
Very, very good movie.
One, because I just really enjoy it. Two, I remember being a kid and my dad staying up some holiday, July 4th, Memorial Day, Labor Day, something. He didn't have to work the next day. And if you've ever seen Hang 'em High, there's a sound that it's the trap falling on a hanging. It's like ta-dum, ta-dum. You hear that repeatedly through the film. And every time I hear that, it takes me back. I'm like 8 or 9, whatever. And my dad's watching that film, and thankfully my dad's still with us. But it's like every time I hear that or I see Hang 'em High, I think of my dad, and it's a good film. It's got the incredibly lovely Susan Oliver in it, but it's probably my favorite. But yeah, best is probably High Plains Drifter.
Yeah.
You?
Oh God. For me, it's The Outlaw Josie Wells. A really, really good movie. Now, is that my favorite? Yes. Is it his what do I think is his best? I'm gonna go with you. It's definitely High Plains Drifter, simply because he plays another character who's coming back from the dead, and it's way more freaking brutal. He has them paint this town red. He does. And by the way, Dark Shadows alum Mitchell Ryan is in this goddamn movie. If you see it for nothing else, and there's a lot to see it for, by the way. I love how he comes into town, and this woman who's trying to hit him, he just puts her in her place. Oh my God. Great movie.
Now I'm fighting with Pale Rider.
Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah.
The more I think about it, the more I'm leaning towards Pale Rider. So I'm going to change my answer to Pale Rider.
Yeah,
Plains is good, but the thing that always bothers me about High Plains Drifter is, he walks into town, there's that woman running her mouth, he slaps her, quasi rapes her. And I say that, I'm not trying to be funny, because he is raping her. And then part of the way through it, she's like, no. And then she's like, yes. It's a weird thing. And it's showing you, hey, this is not a John Wayne film. This is not black and white. This is gray morality. That scene has always bothered me a little bit. And in Pale Rider, he actually gets to do a little bit of comedy.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit better story. LaHood and the Rangers striker. My only complaint is I wanted more about that, because it's pretty obvious when he goes up against the Rangers that the main one whose name I believe is Stryker obviously recognizes him, because he goes, "You," right before he gets shot, and it's like, wait a minute, I want to know more about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am going to switch it, but High Plains is they're both good films. Whichever one if you said either one of them was his best, I don't think anybody would really disagree.
Yeah. Long before John Wick got mad over his dog getting killed, there was this little girl whose dog got killed, and she asked God to send an avenging angel, and he did in the form of Clint Eastwood.
I hadn't made that connection, but now that you do, I'm like, oh crap. Maybe John Wick got killed doing his 12 labors of Hercules, and he's an avenging angel.
I swear to God, that watch them remake Pale Rider with Keanu Reeves.
You know what? I would watch just about anything with Keanu Reeves once.
Yeah. To me, I loved him in Johnny Mnemonic. Fun movie, but I think with the thing with High Plains Drifter, though, to touch upon that real quick. With that, you see a lot of flashbacks in a sense, and you keep hearing the whips. So, because the guys with the whips don't actually show up until in town until way later because they're in jail.
Yeah.
And what you're slowly realizing is the guy who's rode into town, Eastwood's character, he ain't looking to do he's not looking to be a good person in a sense. And you get the sense of why of, oh, this town already sold its soul. So in a lot of ways, he's making them serve out the hell that they should. And that's what he's there to do.
Everybody.
It's not just to kill these 3 people who murdered him. In a sense, it's this town is going to pay for what it did too. And it's in a way, it's a Silent Hill. This is a Silent Hill Western movie without being. If you've never played the game, I apologize, but that's what I see it as, and it's fun.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, you're not in Centralia, so look that one up in your fucking Wagnalls, kids. Patrick's not going to pull out obscure references.
Yeah, Centralia, PA. Is there anything you want to add about Fistful of Dollars?
I have had this. We've covered up my points, and I was thinking about something. I'm like, oh yeah. If Jewel asks, is there anything else you want to mention? In my younger days, one of my favorite bands was a band called Wasp, W-A-S-P, heavy metal band, late 80s to early 90s, still around, but apparently doesn't tour the United States. And they updated the title of this for a song, and it went from Fistful of Dollars to A Fistful of Diamonds. And I always thought, I think I would go with A Fistful of Diamonds. And it's kind of funny because they have a couple of songs that deal with the Old West. One of them's Widowmaker, which is kind of in it. It's like you could take this movie and cut it up and make a video for Widowmaker with it.
I'm gonna see if I can find their song, some of their songs on YouTube, and I'll post a link in the description box so I can listen to it myself later too, because why not? But I really enjoyed this movie. I know you did too. I give it by the way, I forgot to say I give it a 9 as well. It's really good. But the movie we're going to be discussing next week, for a few dollars more, to me has the better story than this movie. We'll talk about it then. Butch, buddy, it has been fun. I'm glad to get you back on here. Sorry about being sick, dude.
That's okay. The week before was on me. And a few dollars more also has Lee Von Cleef. I mean, not knocking anybody in Fistful of Dollars, but when you have to tell a better, like you were saying, tell a better story, you got to have 2 characters that can balance it out. And yeah, I've already got my other copy upstairs, and I was going to try and watch it a little bit today, and we've been running, so it's like, well, I guess I'll just have to watch it tomorrow.
And to anybody who's never seen Fistful of Dollars, when you watch it, just remember, you are not in America anymore. Even if you are watching it in America, you are not in America anymore in that movie. Oh God. But Butch, buddy, thank you so much. I'll see you next Saturday. You take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. See you, buddy.
Take care, bud.
Bye.
See ya.